Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, evening, nighttime, whatever it is for you when you click on this video. Welcome into my channel. I am Lisa, and this is North Star Energy Healing. I hope you're all doing well today. It is a beautiful sunny day in Maine, and we have had several sunny days in a row, so I'm very excited about that after all of our rainy weather. Today is Friday, May 16th, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do a reading on, and I asked my guides. I have a lot to do today, but I haven't done a reading in 6 days because life on this human earth plane has gotten in the way a little bit. So if you clicked on this, you already know that this is a message for all moms, all mothers, all mother figures, all people who consider themselves a mother to somebody. You could be somebody's godmother. Somebody considers you their second mom. I had an experience like that when I was in my early 30s, and I worked a summer job. It was right after my son was born, and I hadn't quite gotten back into the full-time swing of things. And there was a young boy. He was not young. He was a senior in high school, and he called me Mammy because he considered me like a second mother. He asked me for advice and things like that, and our friendship stayed until he went off to college. And the name Mammy, that's what my grandkids call me now, today. I became a grandmother at a young age. I had my daughter at a young age. She had her first child at a young age, so I was pretty young. So I didn't want to be called Grammy, Nanny, Nana, or any of those things. So Mammy was what they called me. So for anyone out there who is a mom, a mother figure to someone, a second mom, a godmother, this is who this reading is for. And my love goes out to you because being a mother is one of the hardest jobs that we have to do. Every soul is here for their own path, but as parents, and specifically moms, maybe they'll have me do a reading for dads, I don't know, but for right now, we are in charge of these little bodies, little souls, little minds, until they go off on their own. Everybody is ultimately here for their own path. We are chosen by the little souls that choose us to be their mother. And but then they go off on their own. Nobody explained it better to me than in the book by Betty Eadie called Embraced by the Light. I will never forget a passage in that book where she had not fully crossed over. She had a near-death experience, and she wrote a book about it called Embraced by the Light. I think I loaned it to someone and I never got it back because I can't find it. I've looked for it a couple of times. And in that book, she doesn't want to come back to, she wants to come back because she says, well, I have kids and I have to take care of them and this and that. And Spirit, God, Source, angels, whoever you want to say, said, those are not your children. You only have them until they go out on their own path. So you are in charge of helping them get their start in life, and that's it. They're not really yours. Every soul is their own. And I thought at that time, wow. She did come back, obviously, because she wrote the book. And she was only allowed to remember certain things. But in the time that we have these children in our care, we can do a lot of good, and we can also do a lot of damage, depending on how we view our role and how we view what we say. I learned a lot from my own mother about how not to be a mother. I did not have a good relationship with my mother, but I learned a lot of lessons. I was not the kind of mother that she was. My mother was not loving towards me or my sister. My younger sister probably got the most of her love, the baby. Anyway, so I learned that I always wanted to tell my kid. I don't remember my mother ever telling me she loved me until I was like 31 years old. By that time, it felt pretty weird because I was like, why is she saying this? And then when she was near to death, when she had a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, and I went to visit her. I got to see her a couple of times before that. I lived 12 hours away in Tennessee. She lived in North Carolina. And the 2 times that I did get to see her before her death, she wanted to hold my hand and talk to me, and it just felt so foreign to me. Of course, I was there for her because she's my mother, and she did give me a roof over my head and clothes on my back and food, such that it was. She wasn't a very good cook. And so I was there, but it was tough because I didn't have those deep rooted feelings of love. Now, I hope and pray that my own 2 children feel more than for me than what I felt for my mother. I've tried to make better decisions than my mother made. We have to be really careful about what we say to our kids. Words are so powerful. And there are things that I still remember my mother saying to me when I was a kid that were so hurtful. And every now and then, they will pop into my memory. Man, I wish I could just not remember those things, right? My kids are grown. I have grandkids. I don't need to remember those things. But, one of the things was when I was in 6th grade, I started to gain a little bit of weight. I had always been a pretty skinny kid. And I can remember my mother, I don't know, she baked a few kinds of cookies, but not very often, maybe on holidays or when company was coming, because she really cherished everybody looking up to her more than her own family. And she would get Oreos or double stuffs. Oh, God, so bad for us. And I can remember eating one, and then I was going to get another one, and my mother said, go ahead, have another one, Porky. And I've never forgotten that. Gosh, we have to be so careful what we say, and I'm not whining about it, because it made me the person that I am today. Having her as a mother shaped how I would become a mother, or how I would be as a mother, the type of mother that I would become. And I learned lessons from that. I learned what not to do. Just there were many things, but that's one example of something that she said to me that, oh, jeepers. So I don't want this to be a downer. I'm just pointing out what Spirit is giving me. So they want us to be careful how we talk to our kids. We should never tell our kids that, they're stupid or dumb or can't do something, or I'm sure that nobody watching this channel does this. But it's just like my mother may not at the time have thought that what she was saying was bad. I don't know. My mother hated fat people. I didn't know that. She didn't say that to me, but she said it to one of my other sisters. And I was like, what? Like, how do you hate somebody for that? That's not even the person. I think my mother's soul hadn't been on earth very many times, or she was taking on a weird role like that. But, anyway, so we have to be careful. Now, I'm not a fan of everybody getting the same trophy, like if kids aren't doing well in Little League, then we don't need to give them a trophy. We need to say, maybe this isn't your sport, right? Participation ribbon, fine. But, I'm not a big sports fan anyways. I don't know. I think we should do things because we like to do them and it makes us happy. I don't think we should ever do things because we think it's what our parents want us to do. I think that's a big mistake. I made many, many mistakes. And just because, you love volleyball or bowling or whatever it may be, cheerleading or singing or whatever, don't force your child to do the thing because you love it. Let them choose what they want to do. Okay? It's really important. I don't know how many people are going to watch this video all the way through because, you may not be interested in it. But if you're about to become a mother, now I had my daughter when I was really young. I didn't have my son till 14 years later. I was a much smarter mother 14 years later than I was the first time around. And I can remember saying, this is going to be my priority. This baby will be my priority. I will be the best mother that I can be. And anytime my child wants me to color with them or play a game or go outside, I will stop what I'm doing and I will do it. And I did. There were many, many times when my son was growing up that I was tired and I didn't feel like going in the backyard to play baseball or going over to the lake for a swim, but I did it because I knew that those days would come to an end eventually. So when your kids, ask you to pay attention to them, don't stick an iPad in front of their face. Don't tell them to go play on the computer. Don't tell them to play a game. Here's another one that Spirit is giving me. In the office where I work, it's a physical therapy office, and the other day a patient came in and she had to bring her little brother with her. Now, this patient was like 20 years old, and the kid was, I don't know, maybe 7, I guess. So, yeah, big difference in age there. And so she had to go and do exercises with the therapist, and the kid was sitting in the waiting room on a chair. She gave him her phone because we don't have any play toys for kids because typically people don't come to physical therapy with their kids. And he sat there with the phone for a few minutes, and then he started whimpering, crying, and then he picked up her keys and he was shaking the keys and banging them on making all kinds of noise. And then he started again, and I said, what's wrong? And he said, I want to hang out with her. And I said, well, you can't right now because she's with the therapist. And I said, do you have something to do on your phone? I didn't know whose phone it was. I didn't even see her good. And he said, yeah, I want to play a game. And I said, okay, well, can you open the game? I was trying to redirect him. And he said, I don't know how. And I said, all right, well, let's walk over there. So we walked over, and she said, I don't have any games on my phone, whatever his name was, I can't remember. But you can watch a movie. Let's pull this. So she tried to, and she said, well, pick one of these and watch it. And then I walked him back over to the waiting area, and he sat down and, continued to whimper and bang the keys around. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't even concentrate to do what I need to do because of all this noise. And I was like, I remember going places with my parents as a kid, and I might have to sit there for 30, 40, even an hour, waiting for them to do something, quietly waiting. And you knew how to do that. Kids in this day and age, unless they've got something in front of their face, they don't know how to use their imagination. How to just look around or be in their own thoughts, or anything like that. It's like they can't do it. It's like if they don't have some sort of electronic thing in their face, they don't know how to sit still for even 15 minutes. And it's so sad to me. I mean, I can remember long car rides, just sitting in the car for an hour and a half, going somewhere, not doing anything or talking because my stepdad wanted it quiet. And it's not like we got mad about it. We just knew, okay, when we get in the car, we're going to be quiet. We're going to take a ride. We're going to look out the window. We're going to, sometimes we would play games like I'm, looking for specific cars or out-of-state license plates, things like that. But kids today, they have a friggin' iPad strapped to the seat in front of them so they could just stare at this digital stuff. I guess Spirit, obviously is getting me to say these things, maybe to remind us that we need to stop training our children that they have to have some sort of action in front of their eyes in order to sit quietly. We need to get back to where kids can use their imagination. Um, Build fairy houses in the yard or little kingdoms or whatever. Something that isn't electronic based, right? Now, I know there are going to be times that it needs to be done. This is the day and age we live in. But please also teach your kids that they don't have to have an iPad or a phone or a Game Boy or a Nintendo Switch or whatever the things are that kids have now. They are capable of using their own imagination to keep themselves entertained. Okay? Wow, we're already at 15 minutes and I haven't even showed you a card. For all those parents out there who already do this, teach your kids how to garden, how to go outside and walk, how to mow the lawn, how to plant things, how to just write a story, let's say. Sit down with a piece of paper, write a story, right? All those imaginative things. Kudos to you, my hat's off to you for doing that, right? Because your kids will be more well-rounded. I'm not saying that they can't have those other things, but I'm saying give them other things as well. All right, here we go. So the first deck they wanted me to use is the Divine Masters deck by Kyle Gray. And you have Ma'at, Divine Intervention. Weigh up your options. Choose the highest good. Weigh up your options. Choose the highest good. Yeah. What are the options that you have when it comes to being a mom? What are the options that you have when it comes to parenting your child? What do you say yes to? What do you say no to, right? And then from the Healing Spirits Oracle, your spirit guide can lead you but can't do it for you. Yeah, this is somebody who's sort of hanging upside down over a waterfall with lots of spiritual things around. So this may be telling you that your spirit guide is going to give you some opportunities in motherhood to maybe either do something different or make a different choice, make another choice. There may be an opportunity coming up. I know in Maine we have, I think, is it, I can't think of where it is. I forget. There's like a little, like an island. It's about an hour away from here, where every year they invite kids to walk on the paths on the island and build fairy houses. And that is just a wonderful thing where kids can use their imagination. I love it so much. My husband and I have walked that path just to look at all the fairy houses that were built there. And it's just a magical, incredible feeling. Look around where you are. Is there anything like that? If there isn't, do it at your house. Invite your kids' friends over to make, fairy houses or whatever. Or something, some outside activity. Oh, and look. Magical Times Oracle, nature. Sometimes all you need is to go outside, breathe the fresh air to remember who you are and where you want to be. Wow. Thank you, Spirit. So I think that this message is encouraging, and it doesn't matter what season it is where you are. There are things to do in every season here. In fall, we have apple picking and pumpkin carving and Halloween. In winter, we have sledding, snowmobiling, ice skating, skiing, and then in the spring, we have gardening, planting, and just watching the world come back alive. Watching Mother Earth come back alive with all the buds, And if you have a certain specific thing that you have done with your kids, put it in the comments, right? When my son was in grade school, younger, he had a chart and he had certain things that he had to do to earn computer time. He got the same amount of computer time he got equal to homework, reading books, doing his chores, or whatever. I can't remember everything that was on there. But he had to get up to a certain amount, and then if it was only 20 minutes, he only got 20 minutes on the computer. You know, if it was an hour, he got an hour on the computer. Playing outside, walking the dog, I don't know. There were a lot of things on there. And I'm sure that at the time he didn't like me for it, but I know that as an adult he understood it. You know, he understands. Our kids are not going to always understand why we do what we do, you know, but they will when they grow up. They will. Trust me, they will. My son told me that, you know, some of his best memories are when he was in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. Of course, now that's all changed. He's not a big fan of it now because now they're letting girls into Boy Scouts. Honestly, I think what they should have done was just expand the badges and the things that Girl Scouts could do in their own, and Boy Scouts as well. I think that would have been better. I can't imagine all of the things that have to come up because, you know, I was a day camp director for Cub Scouts for 2 summers in a row. And if I would have had to figure out where the girls going to sleep, and I got to get extra counselors because the girls want to be here, Girl Scouts could have had their own, you know, camping trips and worked on the bag. I don't know what the big draw was for girls to get into Boy Scouts and vice versa. I don't understand that. And I'm not saying that it's, I don't believe in it. Okay. That's just my opinion. You know, if you have a different opinion, that's perfectly okay. As you know, I'm a big believer in we can have different opinions and still respect each other. My opinion is Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts should have just been kept the way it was, right? I feel that same way about sports, girls basketball, boys basketball, etc., etc. That's just the way that I feel. I am an older person, so maybe younger people don't care. But the logistics of trying to plan things that, like I said, if I had to try to plan, you know, the day camp situation, I would have had to have twice as many, and all of it was volunteers. So just getting enough volunteers to run day camp the way it was with all boys, I can't imagine then what I would have to do if I also had girls. Extra bathrooms, extra tents, extra everything. And why? Just because a girl wants to say she's in Boy Scouts? I don't know. Maybe this video won't be too popular, but it's just, I'm telling it from my point of view with my own experience. Now, if some of you have been day camp directors in the summertime for Scouts and you have a different opinion, go ahead and put it in the comments. But if you've never done it, then I don't know, you know, your comments are not coming from the experience of doing it. So you can definitely have an opinion. We can all have an opinion. Everybody does. We also have opinions about motherhood and how we each mother our children. You know, like me, I'm upset when I see parents shoving electronics at kids instead of actually talking to them. I've been in restaurants where I've seen kids trying to get their parents' attention and their parents are on their own phones instead of paying attention to the kids. Come on, wake up. This is not parenting, right? Phones are not babysitters. iPads are not babysitters. And let me just say something else. If you have your parents or grandparents still living, call them. Don't send a text on every holiday. I'm so irked when that happens in my life. You know, just sending a text to say, you know, Happy Easter, Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, or whatever. I want to hear your voice. I don't want a text message on a holiday that should be special. I want to see you or hear you. Whew. Okay. And we should also be teaching our kids that. I'm at 25 minutes and I haven't gotten to the tarot. So that's another thing. My grandson only replies to my texts. He doesn't text me first ever. He's, you know, whatever. My granddaughter, once in a while, she will send me a text, but a lot of times my daughter will just send me something like, oh, Taylor loved this thing that you sent her. Well, I want Taylor to tell me that. I want my granddaughter to say it herself. Even if I got a text, that would be fine. But a lot of times it's coming from her mother. And we need to teach our kids that it's good to thank someone and be grateful for something they've done or said or given us, right? We need to teach our kids even to write. Well, both of my kids wrote thank you cards, thank you notes for every holiday as long as I had control over it. Of course, once they were adults, they had to make their own choices. I still send thank you cards. I like doing it. I like receiving them, although I don't know when the last time I received one was, because everybody thinks that texting is all they need to do. Well, as a person here who is on the receiving end of all those texts, I am about this close to going back to a flip phone and saying, I'm not texting anymore. If you want me, talk to me. Call me. Okay. So, Spirit, what else do you have for moms? 7 of Crystals. This is, options and results. This is, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. This is the Spirit Song Tarot. It's not one that I use often. Crystals or Pentacles. Okay, 7 of Pentacles, options and results. So this 7's a reflection, right? So options and results. What are the results going to be of our child rearing if we don't pay attention to what we're doing and saying, right? And the 7 of Pentacles is also one of, what am I going to do with what I've created, right? So all of those pearls of wisdom that you have, that you've received from your mother, your grandmother, even your father or whatever, which of those are you going to pass on to your kids, right? Which are the things, like for instance, with my story, I wasn't going to pass on the feeling of not being loved to my kids, or the feeling of being overweight, or, whatever. So I chose not to bring those. So the options and results card with that 7, what are you going to pass on? Be careful about what that is. 21, the World, for fulfillment and celebration. So a lot of people right now are going through looking at being empty nesters, right? Maybe their kids are going off to college, graduating high school. You could have a child that's this is the last summer before they start school, right? So chapters are ending and new chapters are beginning. What Spirit is saying now is enjoy this summer to the fullest, whether it's the last summer you have with your college student, daughter or son, or if it's the last summer you have before your child starts school. Maybe it's the last summer before they start high school. Whatever it is, make the summer genuine, I'm hearing. Make the summer loving, genuine, kind. Listen to your kids. What are they trying to tell you? The Traveler, adventure and potential. This is like the Fool card, right? Starting a new journey. Oh, I love it. That's what they just gave me to say, right? Was new journey, something new. Could be a new journey where your kids are going to college, going to high school, whatever it may be, right? Something new happening. And that will be a new journey for you as a parent, because what is your parental role going to be when they're in college? What is your parental role going to be when they're in high school? It changes and evolves as our kids grow up and start forging their own path, their own ideas. And I would really encourage you, unless your child is saying, I'm going to be a serial killer, you should, try and be supportive, have discussions about it. If they say, I want to be a mortician, don't freak out. Say, okay, why do you want to be that? What's exciting about it to you? If they say, I want to go to cosmetology school, or I want to be an English, whatever it is. If they say, I just want to go and spend a year meditating in Tibet, find out why. Ask the questions. Is it does it make sense to you? If it does, do everything you can to support their choices. Queen of Shells, peace and compassion. I think this would be equivalent to, yeah, the Queen of Cups. Nurturing, passionate, motherly energy. I love this. Queen of Cups, right? Water signs, watery, loving, nurturing energy. I love this. We can still be nurturing and loving even when we have to say no to something, right? So that's the other thing. You know, your child could graduate high school and say, "Oh, I'm going to go on a road trip to California," or I want to fly to Ireland and live in hostels." Well, you may have to stop and think about that. That may take some planning. I remember when my son drove from Tennessee to Maine by himself, and I think he left in he left in January. He didn't like where we lived in Tennessee. Neither did I. So my husband and I moved to a different part of it. But I'm trying to think of how old he was then. 21 maybe. Yeah, I think he was 21 when he did that. 93. And I was trepidatious about it, but you know what I did? They have GPSs now, but I looked at the route and I went over it with him and I told him that these are good places to stop over. You know, you've been driving for 9 hours a day. He wanted to drive from sunrise to sunset. And these are good. So I did some planning, but then I didn't sit there and worry. You know, he called me every night when he and maybe more than that. But when he did make it to Maine, and I think it took him, 3 days to New York, and then he stayed with his uncle for a night or two, and then he finished. Then I could breathe a sigh of relief. But I didn't get mad because he didn't want to stay in Tennessee. That wasn't his journey. When he came back to Maine, he thrived. He's got his own home. He drives a Mercedes. He has a good job. He has good benefits. And in Tennessee, it was almost like that place was stifling him. I don't know. But when he told me that he needed to get out of there, I listened. I didn't get angry. I didn't try to make him stay. I didn't try to change his mind. I supported him in that. So I don't know why Spirit is having me tell you the stories I'm telling you, but there must be a reason. Page of Feathers, exploration and discovery. Feathers is swords. I think that's funny, right? That's a raccoon. Exploration and discovery. This is telling us everybody is going to have new discoveries, whether it's new discoveries in motherhood or whether your children are going to have new discoveries, and I'm sure they will. But there are going to be new discoveries on how we parent. That's always going to happen, right? As our kids grow and evolve and change, we're going to discover new ways of being parents, new ways of being moms, right? Eventually being grandmoms, hopefully, right? But it's not going to stay the same. And I often say, oh, I wish I could just have one day back when Brian was like 5 or 6. Back when he thought I hung the moon and stars, not when he has to have a different opinion and challenge my opinion on things all the time. He's a Capricorn, so he's very opinionated. But yeah, things are going to evolve and change. And that's good. That's fine. We want our kids to grow. Now, there are some parents who just want to hang on. Control every decision, you're so afraid that your child is going to make a mistake that you think you have to tell them every choice. You're not doing them any favors by doing that. You have to let them make choices. And then suffer consequences of those. Sometimes a choice will lead to something great. Sometimes it'll be a challenge. Sometimes it won't be good at all. They need to learn those lessons. You need to let them fly and learn the lessons that they need to learn on their path. And don't worry so much, right? They're protected. They're on their path as we are. We're not going to leave this earth plane until our time is up, and that's already predetermined before we come here, right? There's nothing that you can do to make a person stay on this earth or prevent anything from happening if it's their time. And when we finish our whatever we were supposed to do here, our work here, then it's time to go. And recently that has happened to a friend of mine whose husband passed way too early. And she went to a medium. We had already had some discussions about it, and I told her kind of the same thing. We don't know why someone passes at a young age. It could be, many things. But the medium told her his work here was done. All of the boxes were checked. It was time for him to go. And that was really hard for her to hear because she, of course, thought they would live out old age together. There was nothing that anyone could have done to prevent that. It was going to happen. Okay, 10 of Shells, blessings and well-being. So this is the 10 of Cups. Wow. 10 of Cups, blessing and well-being. Everybody is going to be fine. It's going to work out the way that it should work out. And everyone will be happy in the end. Now, it may take a longer time, like me. I didn't listen to my intuition, right? I should have. And I didn't listen to my intuition, and I made some wrong turns, took some detours in my life. And then eventually I got it. Yes. And we have to let them go through their own journey. All right, let's recap. Ma'at, divine intervention. Weigh up your options and choose the highest good. So this is, I think, for people with younger children, influencing them by what you do, what you say, how you act, right? And then your spirit guide can lead you, but can't do it for you. Yeah. You're going to have to be the parent, right? You're going to have to make those choices and those decisions about what kind of parent you are. And then nature. Remember, we were talking about get outside. Take your kids outside. Do something away from computer screens and TV screens and iPads and Game Boys. 7 of Crystals, options and results. The results that you get are going to be based on what you are imprinting on your kids. Now, sometimes kids will go the complete opposite, especially if they had a stifling parent. When kids have a parent that stifles them, the helicopter parenting, they will tend to just shoot off and not even want to be, they might go away and not want to even talk to you for a year or two. The World, right? Fulfillment and celebration. We need to celebrate their accomplishments. We need to celebrate our newfound freedom if our kids are going off to college, etc. Or if they're grown up and they don't need a sitter, they don't need daycare. That's a celebration. Everybody is growing. And then the Fool, new journey. Either your new journey as a parent, right? Always changing, always evolving, or your kid's new journey. Going to school for the first time, going to high school, going to college, starting a job. Maybe they're not college bound. If your kids don't want to go to college and they don't feel it, forcing them is only going to be a failure, right? You can't force them to do it. It's not going to work well. They need to make that choice. And then the Queen of Shells, loving, nurturing, feminine energy. Love it. Page of Feathers, exploration and discovery for you and for your kids, right? And then the 10 of Shells. Everybody will find their happiness eventually. It may not be the way that you want, the time or the way that you want it to happen, but it will happen, right? Eventually, they and you will find your niche the way things are now. If you're an empty nester, if you have... Now, I wouldn't want to raise kids in this day and age. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't want to have the argument. I mean, when my son was little, it was... they had PlayStations and the other... What was the other? Nintendo 64. No, I don't know. I can't remember. And I didn't have that for a long time. But when he went to visitation at his father's, he played games a lot. They played games, they went to the movies, they ate junk food, drank lots of soda. It was the opposite of when he was with me. So Yeah. And I was one that would listen to what he wanted. I mean, he took piano lessons, he was in scouts. He played football for half a season, but his father yelled at him so much that he didn't want to play. And so I had to talk to the coach and let him stop. Basketball, he loved. Baseball, I still have every picture of every year of baseball. He stopped playing baseball when coach pitch ended because he was a left-handed batter and the kid pitchers kept hitting him because they couldn't figure out how to pitch to a left-handed batter. So that ended the baseball thing. And that was fine with me. I understood why he was saying it. I didn't sit there and belittle him and try to talk him into staying with base. No, no. That just wasn't my way. I'm sure his father did, but so all the things that Spirit is having me tell you may be clues for things that are happening in your own life with your own kids that will possibly, this message might make you think about it a little bit more. Think about how you're handling it, how you're going to handle it, what you can say, what you can do. Giraffe, visionary. Rise above earthly matters. Glide through life with grace. You are able to see the right path. Stand tall in your self-worth and love with a big heart. And you can see this is like a family of giraffes, right? Little baby giraffe, mama or daddy giraffe, probably mom. I don't know. I don't know how giraffes looks. Maybe it's a mom and two kid giraffes. Giraffe doesn't come out a lot. You need to, rise above it and do what you feel is the right thing. Now, I also am aware that there are households where the parents don't agree on how they parent. Please do not do this in front of your kids. I don't care if they're 5 or 15. Please do not argue in front of your kids about decisions. Make the decision together somewhere and then go back and tell the kids. It's not healthy for kids to see their parents argue about something that the child is going to do or is asked to do or whatever. That's just not, as an example, if your child comes home and says, I don't want to play football anymore, and your mom says, why is that? And the dad goes, too bad, you signed up, you're going to stick with it. Okay. If you're dealing with that kind of a situation, my heart goes out to you, but I'm telling you right now, listening to why your child is feeling that way. Now, it could be that you end up having a conversation and say, okay, this happened today. You don't need to be embarrassed about it. It happens to everyone. Go back. I want you to just commit to a couple more practices. We'll talk again after that. That's a compromise. So if you don't feel like it's the right thing to let a kid quit something then and there, you could always see if they could try it, a little bit longer. Now, there are also, unfortunately, inappropriate things sometimes that go on with coaches and kids. So really listen to what your kids are saying if they want to stop doing something, okay? Just in case. I'm not saying that that's happening, but I'm saying just in case. Dog, friend. This card has come out several times recently. Today, I will love without condition. Now, Spirit is saying that's important. We don't love our kids because they do what we want them to do, right? We love our kids because we love their souls, right? You don't put contingencies on loving your kids, their kids, right? My energy and enthusiasm are an inspiration. I choose to be happy. I am a protector and a friend. Moms, yes. You are a protector of your kids to a certain extent, and then you're going to have to let it go, okay? You're going to have to let it go. Simple as that. We can only take our kids so far, then we have to let them leave the nest. But this message was a great message of encouragement, right? Choosing what we're going to give them for nuggets of wisdom, right? The world, right? The Ten of Cups. Everybody is going to be discovering things with that Fool card. Yeah, and the Page of Feathers. It's all going to end up perfectly fine, right? Be the visionary. Be the good friend. You can be friendly with your kids, but you still have to maintain that you are the parent. Too many times I've seen where the parents act like the children, their friends, and what happens? The kids do whatever they want, say whatever they want. They're rude to their parents. You have to keep those boundaries. Okay? All right. Well, I hope that there was something in this message that has helped anyone. And please feel free to comment if you've had a situation with your own child, like some of the ones that I mentioned that I'd had with mine, because you never know who it can help, right? Peace and kindness every single day. I love you all.